This week on SDC, as iOS 15 has hit the streets, we're looking at a very mysterious security update in iOS 15 that you need to know about. We're looking at Google playing catch up again. It may not be as good as Apple on the security front, but there is some new stuff and you need to know what it does. And also Apple has just introduced some really cool technology to mask your identity and to stop people following you around the internet. And we explain how that works.
iOS 15 has actually launched now, so we've all got it on our iPhones if we want to, of course, because iOS 15 actually comes alongside a security update, iOS 14.8. But mysteriously, iOS 15 came with its own security updates, and these updates weren't actually in iOS 14.8.
Yeah, I was looking at that, Kate, and totting up the numbers, and the number of security updates in 14.8 is completely different to the number of security updates in 15. So what's going on?
It is. Well, I had a good old study of this yesterday morning. So I matched up the CVE numbers that are in 14.8 and the ones that are also in 15. And there is some crossover. So there were 22 vulnerabilities patched in iOS 15. Which is a lot, really. I mean, it's not the 50 that we were seeing a couple of months ago in some of the security updates, but it's still a lot. And 9 of the CVE numbers cross over with 14.8. So some people might be thinking, so what? 14.8, 15, 15 is an upgrade from 14.8. There's going to be other security issues. But the point was that we had been told Apple was going to issue updates to 14 separately to 15. So we wouldn't have, this discrepancy between them. Now, I've asked Apple, I'm like, what's going on? I haven't had an answer yet. They are still looking at it. But to me, I mean, there are a few explanations for this. First one could be that they're not actually listing everything that was patched in 14.8. That could be an issue because at the time, maybe they weren't even able to reveal the CVE numbers or they didn't want to reveal them. That's one thing that it could be. The other thing it might be is that there's going to be another update to 14.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because we talked a lot about Apple's transparency when it comes to security updates and trying to wade through and work out what's what. And 14.8, I guess, was welcome because there was a bit more candor than normally in terms of Pegasus and the iMessage and zero clicks and all the rest of it. So there was more, you kind of had a little bit more certainty than we've had in recent updates. And then, a few days later, you're there playing spot the difference, like a child with a coloring book, trying to work out, well, is this the same as that? And you get no clarity. And that's just disappointing because it makes it hard on the security side to provide advice and information and answer questions.
Well, I must say I quite enjoyed looking at the CVE numbers and matching them up. It was like some kind of pattern matching there. It was quite fun and quite satisfying. But as you say, end result is what's actually going on here. A lot of people actually will need to know about the CVEs and how serious they are and whether they affect them as well. Because obviously when Apple's doing its patches, it doesn't just affect kind of everyday users. It affects business users with big fleets of iPhones. So what if those people are targets and they don't know about it? Should they be upgrading to iOS 15 despite the bugs? People don't know, and that's a big problem.
I guess the proof of this pudding is going to be when we get the next round of updates for both. I know that Apple are already talking about 15.1, which is to fix a camera bug in the automatic switching to the ultra wide lens when you get close to a subject, because it's causing a lot of jitter backwards and forwards between camera types at the minute for some people. So when that comes out, it'll be interesting to see then what the corresponding security updates for 14 are, and if they do end up balancing out, I guess.
Yeah, some more matching up that will need to be done. So that should be very interesting indeed.
Well, we've got matching up, and we've also got catching up, which brings me into Google, which is apparently playing catch up with Apple at the minute on the application security and privacy front, because it's announced that it's going to roll out a security rewind, as I'm calling it, to approximately 2.25 billion devices.
Wow.
This is interesting. Look, I mean, it's taking everything in the round this week, right? As we try to do. It's been a really fascinating week because we've got Google. I mean, Apple, I guess, has put Google under even more pressure than it was under before. It's raised the bar on, transparency on app permissions and also talk about this week around, identity protection, right? You've got Google playing catch up. If I'm honest, a pretty disappointing iPhone hardware update. It's quite hard to work out, if you're sitting with an iPhone 12, can't remember there being less of a reason to go and upgrade to the next one than there's been. Fine. But iOS 15 is really interesting because, we talked a lot about what's in it, but also what isn't in it, because clearly we had all the CSAM issue. But Google's in, it's hard to, Google's in such a difficult position because it's clearly dominant, but Apple is moving really fast down a road that Google can't really follow. What's your sense, Davey, in terms of how far they're going? And if you're Android user, we get inundated with Android users saying, so what should I do as an Android user to stop Google following me around the internet? And you're like,
the thing is, we've always spoken about the fractured ecosystem for Google, which is, for Android, which is, as everybody knows by now, the main reason that I jumped over to an iPhone, because there isn't a fractured ecosystem. When there's a security update, talking of security updates, everybody tends to get it at the same time it's available, which isn't the case on Android, which is where this is interesting, because what they're actually doing is something called permissions auto reset, which basically Android detects if an app hasn't been used, according to Google, for some months. They don't actually define what some months is, and they say this is deliberate. They don't want to clarify it too much because it could mean that some people will game it, will cheat it, whatever that means. But those apps haven't been used for some months. Automatically, the runtime permissions that you granted when you installed the app will be rolled back as if you denied them in the first place. Now, this is great. Some people who've already got Android will be saying, well, this isn't news, because this feature actually came out in Android 11, which was last year now. I mean, we're looking at Android 12 launching soon.
I guess the question is will this fix the problem? Because unfortunately for Google, whenever they introduce innovations to Play Store security, the developers seem to find, or the bad actor developers seem to find a way to just stay that one step ahead. And is this going to fix some of Android's problems? And is it really in Google's interests to fix those problems?
Yeah, I mean, with this specific, the permissions auto reset function feature, Google have said, this is all come out now in a official developers blog posting. And they've said some apps will be exempt from
Google apps.
No. The apps that will be exempt will be enterprise apps that are enabled as device administrators, so they're part of an enterprise policy rollout, which is fair enough, but also apps that only run in the background, like child safety ones. But the bit that gets me is they've also said that developers can ask users to disable the feature, which, yeah, I can understand that for these apps that need to be running in the background, so they don't want the features, the permissions to be reset. But surely that's exactly the type of thing that a bad actor's going to use.
I don't know. Is this kind of move, as an overall thing, is a good move for Android security? Yeah. Is this going to encourage all those people who've left Android for iPhone simply because, the ecosystem is far more secure and private? Is it going to make them go back to Android? I can't see that happening, really.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, my experience of talking to people on this issue is that whilst they may have left Android because of the software side of things, the application side of things, and particularly the security side of things with updates, etc., they're not going to go back for the same reason.
I mean, it's on that catch-up point. We've, clearly Apple's released over the last year have put Google under ever more pressure. And I think we're seeing, one of the really interesting ones, we've talked about it before, is what's happening on the internet and the identity protection side of life. Talked a lot about Chrome on STC, and Chrome having the core issue that it's owned and managed by Google, which is the world's largest kind of digital ad business. But at the same time, it's trying to assure your identity is protected and prevent you being fingerprinted and stuff. So it's kind of sitting both sides of the fence. We've seen lots of innovations from Google around trying to keep everybody happy, do the right thing to, at least optically by users, but serve the ad industry as well. Apple's innovation with iCloud Plus, and it's still in beta, which is private relay, which we'll talk about in a second, is a massive, massive issue, I think, for Chrome. It's just the first time where browsers, they're all out trying to protect you from being fingerprinted and profiled and browsed. And it's all done at the moment by trying to stop trackers. What this is doing is it's actually blocking it at source. It prevents your identity being shared with the websites you visit. So it's a game changer.
Is this a VPN? Is it not a VPN? Can you clarify?
It is not a VPN. A VPN serves a particular purpose. So it has lots of common traits, the use of proxy servers and all the rest of it with VPNs. But what a VPN does is it creates a secure tunnel between you over whatever network you're using and the websites or applications, services that you're visiting, right? And there's lots you could do with that. So for example, if you're in China, you can use a VPN to bypass the restrictions. Nobody can monitor what you're visiting. The secure tunnel will be to a Western website that you're trying to visit. If you're in the US and you want to watch Netflix and you live in the UK, you can use a VPN to pretend you're in the UK so you can still get access to your normal applications. But it'll do all the same things around, protecting your identity, stopping there being a history of what the sites that you're browsing. So it prevents anyone from seeing what you're doing, but it creates that secure tunnel regardless of what traffic is coming from your phone. So any apps and any browsers on your phone will have to go through that VPN because in essence, it controls the communications to the device. That's a VPN. What private relay is a use of kind of double proxy servers, which in essence breaks the identity chain. So when you go to and it only works in Safari and Safari-based apps. It's not, normal apps and other things on your phone bypass it completely, as do VPNs actually. So it isn't a one-size-fits-all solution.
Quick question. Sorry, Zach. So for the average viewer of STC who's interested in their privacy, should they be using a VPN and private relay? And if they do, will this slow down their traffic?
So the two things coexist. If you use a VPN, then private relay won't kick into effect. The VPN will surpass private relay for good reason, because a VPN can do a lot more than private relay can do. It's much more powerful technology and it sits within the device. Whereas private relay is part of the Safari architecture. The answer to your question, will it slow down? Clearly, VPNs are all about speed and not slowing down traffic. So if you go and look for VPN reports, you'll see that often it's the speed. There is an overhead. It is going to slow down your raw network speed, but clearly you want that to be as fast as possible. Private relay is in beta still, and it's in beta for a reason, because there's lots of teething issues. Because what Apple is trying to do is mask the identity of your device, and so it's presenting false IP addresses in the broad location where you are. That upsets some websites, so they're then returning weird results. So they're trying to iron all of that out.
Yeah, definitely. And what VPNs do you guys use? Because I use one by Lockdown, which is actually an app that helps prevent and actually bring up trackers on your phone as well. So that's a good one for me, and I really trust those guys. They're ex-Apple developers. So what would you recommend that other people use, and what would you guys use?
Well, I use Nord or Express VPN.
Yeah, I'm a Nord user as well. I have played with it. Every time I play with Express, they kick me off. It's like they hate me. So they cancel. If I, genuinely, they kick me off and tell me what do I say. I'm like,
what are you doing?
What am I doing? I don't know who they think. But look, and the other thing that we're talking about this week is just some advice. The VPNs are dangerous. Let's be super clear, right? You are, just because something puts itself on a Google or Apple App Store and says it's a VPN doesn't mean it's a secure network tunnel. Often they're not secure. Often they are actually capturing lots of information, logging lots of information, and it's worse to be using it than not using it at all. Don't use a free VPN, as tempting as it might be. Just don't bother. It's a waste of time. So don't use one that has a load of fake 5-star reviews, and therefore it comes at the top of the search list. If you want to use a VPN, for all the reasons we've said, one of the well-known Western VPNs that you have to pay for. It's not very expensive. That is the advice. If you have any other VPNs on your phone, any other VPN profiles on your phone, get them deleted.